at the early stages. The doubt that I always have and what I always think is, how do they identify the winners? Because the losers in that pack are going to be so much higher. Ultimately, the people that reach the capital markets are the ones that have survived that initial journey and the separation of the wheat from the chaff. So let's get some sense as to how he spots those winners. Please, Vivek, if you can make your way to the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Vivek Oberoi. And to speak to him and get some insight, Vikram Oza.
No, but I've been but I'm good with it. Always good to talk to Vivek Oberoi. We've had multiple conversations, and a lot of it is about the kind of businesses that he's gotten himself into. Not many people know that even before he got into the film profession, he had started investing. And yes, films have their highs and their lows, and the low was really low, Vivek. And then, of course, you've done business to the extent where you have an empire that's worth 1,200 crore rupees. Everyone's talking about it. But the question is, how do you make that kind of pivot? And why do you make that kind of pivot? How do you find the opportunity in the kind of businesses that you do? And that first business that you did that really work out?
That's a lot of questions.
Yes, I'm full of them.
Look, okay, why do you do business? I think for me, necessity was the mother of all invention. I was 15, 16 years old, back from a all-boys school called Mayo College, Ajmer, and my alma mater. And my father put me on a 500 rupee pocket money. And I thought that was a lot of money, because I came from a boarding school where you had to sign for everything. कुछ भी चाहिए, जूते नहीं खरीदने, sign कर दो. Invisibly, dad was paying for it. तो मुझे पता नहीं चलता था. There was no price tag on anything for me. So there was no perspective. कहते हैं ना, दाल आटे का भाव. So I didn't have any clue on that. First week or 10 days in college, I went out for my first date with a very pretty girl. And my entire month's pocket money was over. It was finished. And my dad, I thank him so much today for it, to put discipline and values in me. At that time, I didn't thank him, but today I do. But he said कि नहीं, 500 रुपए दिए थे, 500 में तुम्हें, you have to manage your budget, and you messed it up. अब आप भुगतो, you suffer it now. So you figure out how. So I was literally walking to college. I swear I didn't have BEST bus ke paise to get to college. And it was tough for me, and I hated this whole idea. Also, there was a little bit of male ego, 15, 16-year-old. Didn't want to go up to my dad and say, please, sorry, galti ho gayi, paise de do, all of that. Upar se that girl, very pretty girl, after the first successful date, kept asking me, when are we going on our next date? What do I tell her? Kangalu. So that put me in a situation where I said, I want to be able to be independent financially. That's what sparked it. And then I started doing little jugards here and there in college. I found out, remember, there was Valentine's Day coming. And, Friendship Day coming. Friendship Day coming. In Friendship Day, what used to happen is, a lot of guys used to get very scared because they'd get friend zoned. So they wouldn't come to college only that day. कि लड़की आएगी Friendship Day वाला. अच्छा, friendship बहुत gray area होता था. Does she like me? And is that first step towards a relationship? Or is it just friendship? So I understood that there was a gap. So I understood my TG, because I was part of that TG. I said कि यार ये problem है, genuine problem है लोगों की. So I came up with a new concept called Care Bear. Archies के अंदर ना छोटे से एक प्लास्टिक के bears होते थे, little bears. So I went and long story how I sourced the bears all the way to a manufacturing plant in Jogeshwari, plastics वाला. उससे जाके मैंने थोक के भाव में उठाया, उसकी branding वैंडिंग की, कुछ अच्छे pretty looking girls को उसमें involve किया, hired them, gave them some money and said कि अभी तुम लोग chart papers के ऊपर अच्छा खूबसूरत सा, make some nice Care Bear concept papers. So put that out, blockbuster, huge sale. I remember in days where my monthly pocket money was 500 rupees, in that single day I must have made some 22,000 rupees profit net. So मतलब 2-3 साल का pocket money जेब में आ गया ऐसे ही. So that's how I started. And then when I realized I knew how to make money, and I kept repeating it, there was a high in it, there was a kick in it, but then I wanted to understand how to invest it. And I was studying economics. I wanted to understand, is this just jargon? Do I have to just study it to pass through my exam, or does it actually work in real life? I also chose economics, was a very pretty teacher. So all the wrong reasons. But I wanted to understand. So I actually went to the Pan Bidi wala outside. His name was Sada. And I started asking him, because I was reading about concepts otherwise also, the Japanese concept of just in time, about stock management, about why it costs them less. Why does he run out of product? Why does he say no to a customer? Ki khatam ho gaya aaj maal aur nahi hai. How do I finance this? How do I make him an upside and make myself an upside? So think of it like, rather than a sharkish version of microfinancing, more of a dolphin version. Let's swim together, right? So I started taking that approach. So it became almost like a partnership. And I was making returns of 6-7% on my money monthly, which was fantastic. Trying to align with them and trying to move on the same path. If there's a bad month, we didn't make enough money, it's okay. We'll cover up in other months. So that's how I started. Eventually I was microfinancing a whole line of dosa wala, chai wala, pan bidi shop, all these guys was microfinancing. And then I wanted to evolve from them. That's how I started saying, okay, I want to get into business. So I went and I apprenticed at the stock market, learned under a broker, understood what the screen was, understood what metals were, commodities were, why the pricing of oil was where it was, what hedging is. So I learned that journey while I was still in my teens. And that eventually got a little bit rusted when I became an actor, because it just became too easy. You go cut a ribbon and you make money. Go land up at somebody's wedding and say, I'm from the boys' side. Lie that you're from the boys' side and you get paid money for that.
But so that was much later, no? I mean, it was a big ride. When you started off, it's difficult, right? The struggle was there, right?
Yeah.
There was the struggle period, but did you make enough money to tide you through the struggle period?
I've always had money. And I've always been a good, cautious guy saving money, with the exception of one speculative play that I made when I was still about 17, 18 years old, which was this typical story of getting in tip and saying this is going to go very big, and I went all in like Jua and Satta without doing my method, without doing my calculation, understanding, reading, nothing. This one has said, that one has said, and I jumped in and I lost maybe 60-70% of my portfolio, which I had built over 2 years, 2.5 years. I lost it in one single deal. Uske baad kaan aise pakde, I said never again. I will go by the number, I will go by the data, I will analyze, I will listen to 5 people and then go by it. Unless the information is coming from Rahul Karmal, who has incredible credibility, then you take it for what it's worth.
But Vivek, I mean, there was this disillusionment with cinema that happened.
I don't think it was a disillusionment with cinema, Vikram. I mean, I'm sorry to cut you in, but I'd like to correct that. It was a disillusionment with the environment.
Okay.
I felt that the environment wasn't conducive, wasn't a fertile bed for talent to grow beyond the drama that surrounded it. There was a lot of goodbazi, there was a lot of chess, manipulation, play, less art. And you come in with this, fire and this zest, thinking of purist, of passion, and say, only that all that matters is your passion, and you feel that. But there's a lot more that is at play there.
But businesses have those issues as well. A lot of businesses
I think they do, but I guess older, wiser, more experienced. And I think an intelligent person is one who learns from his failures more than enjoys his success.
So when you decided to pivot and go the whole hog when it came to business, was it also necessity being the mother of all inventions? Because at that time you needed to kind of do it, make the pivot?
I think it was a bit of being frustrated, feeling that I want to do so much in life, and I was feeling pulled down a lot. I was trying to move, 2 steps forward, and I was being pulled 4 steps back. I kept experiencing that time and time again. And I said, okay, I have 2 choices. One is to live in victimhood and say, "Arey, so sad for me," cry, be unhappy about it. One is to say, okay, how do I script victory out of this victimhood? How do I change the game? How do I change the paradigm? If I can't win in this particular dimension, how do I flip the dimension itself? So that's what I did. I jumped sideways instead of trying to jump forward every time I was being pulled back. So everybody got confused when I jumped sideways. They were like, okay, he's not going forward anymore, so how do we pull him back now? So for me, I think that was the big shift. And then I approached it with the same degree of effort, energy, conviction, commitment that I did when I was starting out, whether it was films or whether it was work, I learned the basic building blocks. So if it's real estate, then went into literally consolidating land at the grassroots level, sitting with farmers on the floor in their houses, in the villages, understanding the land, understanding what a satbara is, getting down to the basic granular fundamentals of it all. And that's why it positioned me in a way where I could succeed more steadily.
So when you jumped sideways, was agri-tech something that you moved towards?
I did a bunch of things. I did fintech, which did very well. I found a niche everywhere. So what I was looking for when I was doing fintech, for example, I set up a startup and innovation university in Gujarat. And before the NEP came out, it was the first university that had a dual degree, where you could do a traditional degree and a startup at the same time. So just like I was telling you about, the Care Bear Friendship Day concept, I realized students today had another problem. My friends are going in and starting a startup. I'm getting FOMO, but my parents are very strict. They're saying, shut up and finish your engineering. I feel maybe engineering has no future. Look at so many other guys who are finishing engineering. They don't get a job. I wish I could have done my startup. Wo kar raha hai, ye kar raha hai, usko to funding bhi mil gayi. If you created the same thing in a structured environment where you could complete your formal degree but at the same time get a startup degree. So that's what we did at Swarnim. And that's what became a big success story. We have a resident capacity of now about 5,500 students in my university there. So we built that building block. Then from there came ideas of how to create more startups. So fintech, the problem was I was trying to solve for was a lot of kids want to go to a great school, great college, university, but can't afford paying one shot. Single shot mein fees nahi de pa raha hai. So how do we create financing for that, create a good IRR for NBFCs, create an arbitrage for my tech company, and finance those students without having somebody to sign as a guarantor for that amount of fees. Lakh rupiah, 1.5 lakh rupiah. How do we solve for that? So we created peer-to-peer financing platforms based on tech. We created algos that would evaluate immediately, what is a person's family spending. A lot of them are children of kisans. So how do you manage to provide that? So we built an army of almost 14 lakh students that were suddenly getting funding, and we became the bridge between priority sector lending targets of banks, NBFCs who had money and were expecting higher numbers. So built a track record and then flipped it to priority sector lending from banks. So built that kind of a tech bridge. Same thing we did with agri-tech. Today we impact more than 1 crore farmers, out of which proudly I say 32 lakh are women farmers. So we built that value. We did something which was roadside safety assistance. How do we create a roadside safety assistance equivalent of the AAA services that you get in America when you have a breakdown? So that was a tech idea. So ventured into multiple spaces that I thought was exciting and interesting.
Spread yourself too thin.
So I have a format that I work in, right?
Yeah,
earlier I used to co-found these companies myself, be a part of it. Nowadays what I do is I have a vision, I have an idea. I pick a great founder. Think of it like a venture lab. I put up the capital. Now because of the number of times one has been successful and people have made money, checks come in really quickly. And the initial setup is good. Maintain a financial discipline. No more burn runway. Hate that treadmill. Been on that treadmill. Don't want to go on that treadmill ever again. That, we'll burn for 1 more year, then we'll, grab more market share, then we'll do. No. How do you make it unit economics wise, financially feasible on day one? How do you get to profitability as early as possible? How do I get
that right every time, Vivek? I mean, there will be times when you don't, right? So then what do you do?
Until now, knock on wood, when I've set the DNA and we've compromised on growth. For example, let me talk about Solitario. I started the company 3 years ago. Went into the lab-grown jewelry space. People didn't know what to categorize it as. I'm wearing it right now, by the way, flashing it, promoting my own brand here. Never miss a chance. So Solitario picked up Ricky Vasandani, great founder, pulled him in and said, let's do this together. Built the company out. Very difficult because so many opportunities. Oh my God, that one's coming in. Oh, we're losing the first mover advantage. Let's just pick up capital. Let's burn money. No, stick to the discipline. Cut to 3 years later, you're IPO ready. You're in 9 countries. You're in 25 cities. You've got more than 100 points of sale. You've got more franchise inquiries than you can handle or deal with. You're capex light. You don't go into a raw material or commodity. Today, if the cost of the raw material goes down, you're still making your margin because you're playing the brand retail and owning the customer. Those fundamental things is what I
So when you're getting
on.
into business, you're thinking of staying invested for the long term and scaling.
Yeah.
That is always the plan.
I'm not a one-night stand guy. I believe in marriages.
So most of them have been long-running marriages. And
Yeah.
that's how you prefer choosing
Because
what you want to get into.
Very early, I realized I don't care about money as much as I care about wealth. That's the first question I ask any founder who comes to work with me. Do you want to make money or do you want to create wealth? And if he says, I want to make money, I said, goodbye. If he says, I want to create wealth, I said, okay, let's consider a partnership. Because I think, I always say this, that, profit at the end of the day, profit is for a quarter. Purpose is for life. What is that purpose? What are you trying to solve for? What are you trying to create? How many people do you want to bring in stakeholders? How do you want to create a journey? I'm a very satisfied person. I've got more than plenty. God has blessed me with enough. I don't need more zeros. But do I want to create more impact? Yes.
But do you end up making more zeros in the bargain?
I do.
With your approach?
I think it's beautiful. When you chase the impact, the zeros chase you. Because impact connects with people. It creates a stakeholdership. It creates a thought process. You create a tribe. You create a community. And that community automatically adds zeros.
Even in real estate, where a lot is to do with making money rather than wealth.
No. So that's actually a very wrong way to think. Today, for example, when you go home, what is the feeling you get? If you go into a building that is poorly made and the walls are cracking and every single day you're cursing the developer, that bugger, I wish I had not got into his jhasa and bought this apartment here. That's one experience. And there are so many people who will walk up to you and say, boss, I invested in that community of yours. Wow, what an experience. When I go there with my family, I spend the weekend there and a weekend home. Oh, we think of you, we thank you. There are so many people and so many developers I know who people walk up to and compliment and say, thank you for doing this for us. Thank you for this quality of life. So when we think, especially at B&W in the UAE, when we think ecosystemically. We think, how do we create a whole way of life? And how do we envision and think of what the customer's experience is going to be? Any business that I do, finally, the last touch point is the customer. What is that customer's experience going to be in that touch point with you will define your brand, your legacy, your destiny.
But now, I'm seeing that Masti is back. We are seeing a Masti 4. The franchise is alive and kicking. So are you creating a new ecosystem in the entertainment industry now? Are you spotting the opportunity that we are seeing you back in a big way now with such a big release?
बंदर कितना भी बूढ़ा हो जाए गुलाटी मारना नहीं भूलता है. Look, acting has been a passion, right? Always. And now that I don't have to work, I don't have to do cinema for money. I can chase it for that silly, idealistic, purist thought process that I had, just to have fun. So Masti was like a family reunion with Ritesh and Aftab and Induji and Milap and a whole bunch of, friends who we worked over 21 years from the first one in 2004. 21 years. I was just joking with the other boys and embarrassing them, saying that just take a moment and think when we were doing the first Masti, your leading ladies, were they in diapers or not? Just making us feel
Certain
older.
things don't change in the business, right?
Yeah. So it is what it is. So the idea is to pursue cinema more from a fun perspective and not a numbers perspective, because it became too much of a numbers game for me to really enjoy it, right? It was debilitating at one point. So I wanted to now go out and say, forget the numbers. Like, I don't know, how many of you have watched Satya in the audience? Oh, yeah, that's
Almost everyone.
Big majority.
And we're still humming its songs.
If I ask you, do you remember your favorite song from Satya? Would you have an answer for me? Title song, great. If I tell you, do you remember when you saw it, was there an emotion associated with it? Did you go with your then lover or current husband or ex-husband or right, or friend from college? You'll have those memories. But if I ask you, do you know what business Satya did? What was the collection of Satya? Does it matter? Does one person in this audience remember whether he did 50 crores, 54 crores, 72 crores? It doesn't matter. So I think that's what I wanted to de-link. It is a business, I respect that. There are investors, it's real money at stake. I respect that. That's good. But for me as a personal choice, I wanted to de-link that. I wanted to be in a space where the zeros don't matter. It's that moment on screen. It's that moment of creativity where I can surrender my soul and be in oneness with the camera and the character. That's what I was searching for, and that's what I'm looking for again. Now he'll say, and you found that in Masti 4? Don't be bitchy.
So eyebrows will be raised. But if you were to look at your entire film career and the many dialogues that made you famous and the many songs that you did, and the lessons that you learned perhaps that you're bringing into business, because like you said, that was a journey as well. And then business took off in a huge way and you started spotting these opportunities. But what were those dialogues, the lessons that you learned in your time, in your heydays, if I may call them that, in the film industry that you still carry with you? And I need to hear at least one of them. A dialogue, a song that stays with you, and that becomes like a mantra.
Oh gosh. I don't think there's anything I apply to my business in it. I mean, I could try and find some connect because most of it is all gangland stuff like tu aur teri company khalas, stuff like that. I'm doing the opposite of khalas, trying to build it out. But yeah, I mean, look, what do I learn from, say, a company? It's funny, no? 23 years ago, I started my first film. My debut was a film called Company, and now I'm in the corporate world. When I think of company, what do I think of? I think of how two partners in crime, pun intended, can get together and consolidate a disorganized space. If you think of gangland at that time, which is disorganized, and you bring it together, a fragmented space, and you consolidate it like, say, I don't know, Parle G did with biscuit manufacturing, where I remember in my very young age, we used to go and turn those aluminum caps in the jars and pull out these freshly baked biscuits and buy them for 25 paise each. And then suddenly Parle G takes over and you have, this packaged standardized biscuit. That created phenomenal value. And then you have multiple such case studies. I think consolidation of those spaces is really exciting. For me right now, I'm trying to do that in EdTech. I'm trying to create something phygital, which is not just digital, not just physical, but bridging between the two, creating phygital, and really connecting Bharat, the students of Bharat, the aspirations of Bharat to the best teachers in India, right? Trying to bridge that between the urban-rural divide. I'm trying to do a lot of fun stuff which excites me, even with real estate, when we were talking about tokenization. So we're working on it right now. Nilesh Bhai was mentioning something. I was in Singapore just now for a very large conference on tokenization. And today, if you understand what the total market cap of Indian stock markets is roughly, Nilesh Bhai, kya hoga? 4 trillion? 5 trillion? $5 trillion. What is the total GDP across the globe? All countries included. Global GDP. Anybody has a number? 110, 112 trillion. If you unlock real estate wealth, what is the current wealth locked in real estate across the globe? $400 trillion. $400 trillion of real estate. 4 times the global GDP. That's what real estate is holding as wealth. Now imagine unlocking that. Imagine creating fractional ownership, creating tokenization, creating tradable tokens, all connected to a blockchain seamlessly.
Yes.
That's what's exciting. I think that's the future. We're bringing AI. We're doing so many interesting things with AI, both in the development space and otherwise. Those are exciting. So this is the fun stuff that I'm enjoying. New scripts.
Good luck on all of these, Vivek. It's such a joy to connect with you and speak to you in this festive time. And of course, as far as NDTV Profit goes, we need you to say a few words about what we are aiming to do. The profits that we are helping our viewers generate through what we do is something that perhaps ties into what you're trying to do with your business.
Since it's the flavor of Diwali right now, and I'm a believer in this phenomenal culture that we're all very fortunate to be born in. Purusharth, right? The meaning of life, the meaning of mankind, what it is to be mankind, Purusharth, has been defined so beautifully into 4 pillars. Dharma, Artha, Kam, Moksha. These are the 4 pillars. Dharma, of course, is what brings balance, right? And it's very different to religion. It's very funny how people equate the Hindi or the Sanskrit word dharma to religion. Religion comes from a Latin word, religare. Re meaning to repeat, again, and ligare means to bind, to tie. So it is the construct that you are tied to. It's a structure in which you are pinned down, and that's religion. And ours is a concept of openness and liberation, and that is dharma. To find your place, to find what you were created for, to find harmony, to find purpose, and play that purpose, play that part beautifully. Today, in one line of code goes wrong, you can have the whole internet crash and shut down, right? That one line of code also has its part, it has its purpose. So I believe in NDTV Profit today, with the 4 pillars of Purusharth that I was mentioning, Arth, profit being such an important one. If you combine that with purpose,
That's excellent.
and that's what will bring dharma and balance into life.
On that note, Vivek, thank you so much for joining us here on NDTV Profit Ignite.
Cheers.
Such a pleasure speaking to you. And happy Diwali.